Welcome to our Sheltered Instruction Strategies series. In this session, we're talking about lesson differentiation, and we're going to specifically talk about using process to differentiate. In our previous session, which you can see the link right above, we focused on lesson differentiation using content. When you use content, you're looking at the what. When you use process, you're looking at the how. Okay, let's quickly go over this chart. Teachers can differentiate using content, process, or product. And if you're teaching according to the student's readiness, you're teaching to increase growth. If you're teaching according to the student's interests, you're teaching to increase motivation. And if you're teaching according to the student's learning profile, you're teaching to increase efficiency. There are multiple intelligences which we can use to differentiate instruction. We have linguistic students who listen to words, like to be read to, and may have an easy time with spelling. There are spatial students who are good with pictures, drawings, building, and puzzles. There are bodily kinesthetic students who excel in athletic activities and have well-developed fine and gross motor skills. There are musical students who enjoy music, rhymes, singing, and playing instruments. Naturalists who enjoy being outdoors with animals and using natural materials. Logical, mathematical students who enjoy puzzles, computer games, problem solving, and thinking activities. You have interpersonal students who are very social. They like to be with other people and enjoy group activities. And finally, you have intrapersonal students who are very independent and they're content to play and work by themselves. Let's take a look at this chart. This chart talks about differentiating using process. Look under readiness level. Here we can provide reading materials on different levels to provide access to content. We can enlarge text, read information aloud to students who cannot read. We can use scaffolding to provide access to general education content, tap into what the student already knows, and help them build bridges to new content. We can use a variety of resource materials at different cognitive levels, such as books, music, magazines, video, websites, and audio tapes. We can eliminate or explain abstract material as necessary. So these different ways that we can teach materials depend on the student's readiness level. Let's take a look at interests. You can allow students to use learning materials they enjoy, computer, books, drawing materials, and videos. You can group students based on similar interests for a topic of study to learn together. You can set up learning centers based on the student's interests. If a particular student does better attending to instruction while fidgeting with an object or holding a special items, allow it. The most important thing to remember is you want your students attending to the instruction. And this one's not mentioned in this chart, but something that I've seen is that some students like to draw or doodle in their notebook while they're listening to the lesson. Before you tell them to stop and put their notebook away, make sure that this isn't one of the students who needs to do this in order to pay attention to the lesson. If we want to differentiate through process according to the student's learning profile, students can work with a peer or a group of peers to learn the content. They can have problem-based learning, project-based learning, and we'll touch on those things a little more later on. You can provide visual material, such as graphic organizers, pictures, print, videos. Auditory activities or materials can be provided, such as talking, singing, rhyming, or music. And finally here, provide opportunities for active engagement, hands-on learning experiences. You can allow for movement, role play, and literature circles. Here's an example of differentiated text. In this example, both of these are teaching a student about ducks. The exact title of the article is Can We Float Like Ducks? If we look carefully at both of these pages, we can see that one has all the information fitting on one page, while the other one has all the information fitting on 2 pages. The reading with one page might have text that is a little bigger, a little simpler, and a little more focused, while the 2-page text that is on grade level might have more abstract information. It might go a little more into detail or have smaller print and so on. For differentiation using process, you need to know a few things. For example, you might need to know the student's reading level. You'll definitely, for English language learners, need to know their English proficiency level. If a student has an IEP, you might want to be familiar with what's in the IEP. You want to look at their performance on benchmarks and formative and summative tests. Looking at the can-do descriptors, we can see that for English language learners, depending on their English proficiency levels, you can expect them to do the following. For example, for a level 2 beginning student, if we look at the listening domain, this student will be able to sort pictures, objects according to oral instructions. They'll be able to follow 2-step oral directions, match information from oral descriptions to objects and illustrations. The same student, when it comes to reading, will be able to locate and classify information, identify facts and explicit messages, select language patterns associated with facts. So as you can see, by using the can-do descriptor for language learners, you can differentiate how you teach the lesson and also the different activities that you're going to give different groups of students based on their language proficiency. Okay, so let's talk about 5 different things that you can do in order to differentiate through process. One thing you can do is create learning stations. Each station should use a unique method of teaching a skill or concept related to your lesson. Students can rotate between stations that involve watching a video, creating artwork, reading an article, completing puzzles, listening to you teach, and so on. To help students process the content after they've gone through the stations, you can hold a class discussion or assign questions for them to answer. Something else that you can do is you can use task cards. Like learning stations, task cards allow you to give students a range of content. Answering task cards can also be a small group activity, adding variety to classes that normally focus on solo or large group learning. First, make or identify tasks and questions that you typically find on worksheets or in textbooks. Second, print and laminate cards that each contain a single task or question. Finally, set up stations around your classroom and pair students together to rotate through them. So the task cards can be one of your stations. You can individualize instruction by monitoring the pairs, addressing knowledge gaps when needed. The third way that we can differentiate through process is to target the different senses within the lesson. Remember the chart that we looked at with the different intelligences? Many of those intelligences target our senses. A lesson should resonate with more students if it targets visual, tactile, auditory, and kinesthetic senses instead of only one. When applicable, appeal to a range of learning styles by playing videos, providing audiobooks, getting students to act out a scene, incorporating charts and illustrations within the text, and using relevant physical objects, such as money, when teaching math skills. The fourth way that we can differentiate through process is by making time for journaling. A journal can be a tool for students to reflect on the lessons you've taught and activities you've run, helping them to process new information. When possible at the end of class, give students a chance to make a journal entry by summarizing key points they've learned, attempting to answer or make sense of lingering questions, explaining how they can use the lesson in real-life scenarios, illustrating new concepts, which can be especially helpful for data-focused math lessons. And the fifth and final method that we're going to talk about in this session is to assign open-ended projects. Similar to evaluating reading comprehension, give students a list of projects to find one that lets them effectively demonstrate their knowledge. Include a clear rubric for each type of project, which clearly defines expectations. This encourages them to work and learn at their own paces, engage actively with content that they must understand, and demonstrate their knowledge as effectively as possible. There are many ways that we can differentiate through process. We focused on what differentiation through process looks like, and we talked about 5 different things that you can incorporate in order to differentiate. Thank you.